In 1972, the world received the first home video game console, the Magnavox Odyssey, which when launched was priced around $100, which in today's money is around $600. Since 1972, there have been a total of 9 home console generations, which have always been run by a small number of organisations. The term console wars came into use back in the 1980s with the rivalry between Sega and Nintendo. The two companies were trying to get the upper edge, both on the technology used in their systems and the games available on their consoles. The winner of any console war is usually determined by the amount of units sold and the market cap at the time.
Will you be the one to experience the Nintendo Entertainment System? Comes with Rob, Zapper, Control Deck, 2 controllers, Gyromite, and Duck Hunt.
Nintendo had led the US market for a while. The Nintendo Entertainment System revitalized the US video game industry and established Nintendo as a dominating name in the video game industry over Atari. But this was before Sega entered the market with the Sega Genesis.
16-bit arcade hits. What Nintendo? The 16-bit Genesis system.
The console war between these companies was highlighted with their aggressive marketing techniques and their advertising tactics to gain control in the market. But this era of console wars came to an end in 1995 with the entrance of Sony Computer Entertainment into the market, which changed the gaming industry completely.
The Sony Playstation. Now see the outstanding technical capabilities of Sony's advanced video game system, and how game developers the world over can now create a stunning new generation of interactive entertainment.
Sony's PlayStation came into the US market at a price of $299, which was $100 less than the $399 Sega Saturn, which was Sega's console on the market at that time. With Sony coming into the market with a significantly lower priced product, they managed to sell more consoles in just 2 days than Sega managed over 5 months. With PlayStation easily outperforming Sega in the 32-bit console race, Nintendo came back into the competition in 1996 with a 64-bit console, the Nintendo 64. However, with this move back into the market, the Nintendos were still cartridge-style consoles as opposed to the optical disc consoles of the Sega and the PlayStation. And for this reason alone, the video game development company Squaresoft, who were responsible for creating the extremely popular Final Fantasy series, decided to move their game series over from Nintendo to Sony. And this drove the sales for PlayStation up and in turn drove down the sales of both the Nintendo 64 and the Sega Saturn, pushing them further and further out of market. PlayStation game production was designed to be streamlined and inclusive, enticing the support of many third-party game developers. This resulted in a total of 7,918 PlayStation games being released, with cumulative sales of 962 million units. The extensive game library and popular franchises included Crash Bandicoot, Tomb Raider and Final Fantasy. These games really set them far apart from their competitors by a large amount. The PlayStation sold a whopping 102 million units, in comparison to the Nintendo 64, which sold around 33 million units, and the Sega Saturn, which was around 9 million units. It was clear that the PlayStation joined the console war to take over the market. And the best-selling PlayStation 1 game of all time was Gran Turismo, which is still a franchise with new games being released today. However, the original Gran Turismo, which was released back in 1997, had managed to sell 10.8 million copies. Since Sony knocked both Sega and Nintendo out of the market for competing in the console war, Sony and Microsoft have been direct competitors for their home consoles. Since 2000, both companies have released a new console model within a year of each other, with roughly comparable specifications.
But today isn't about me, Rock. It's about the future of video games.
Bill Gates, you never cease to amaze The Rock. Never cease to amaze The Rock. You're right again. Today isn't about you, it's about the new Xbox. And quite frankly, I couldn't be more excited. The Xbox is everything The Rock is. Cutting edge, powerful, exhilarating, and like The Rock, it will be the most electrifying thing coming out this year.
The Xbox was launched because Microsoft and Sony failed to make an agreement. Bill Gates went to the PlayStation CEO at the time, Ken Kutaragi, and proposed the idea of Microsoft and Sony collaborating to produce the PlayStation 2. Sony refused. Sony's refusal to work with Microsoft led to the creation of the Xbox. At the time, there was lots of speculation that gaming consoles would act as multimedia devices and replace the need for home computers. Microsoft made sure they would be a force to be reckoned with. They launched the Xbox with the critically acclaimed game Halo. The franchise has gone on to generate $6 billion in sales since it was initially released. Although PlayStation was still going to be tough to beat. They had a strong fan following from their previous generation, and Xbox were new on the scene. The PlayStation went on to be the best-selling console of this generation, with Xbox in second place, ahead of Nintendo's GameCube and Sega's Dreamcast. The original Xbox sold 24 million units worldwide, compared to the massive success from Sony, who sold 155 million consoles. The PS2 became the best-selling games console ever, despite the fact the Xbox was the more powerful and feature-packed console. The Xbox had a CPU that was more than double the speed, and a GPU that was almost 3 times as powerful compared to the PS2's mediocre components. One of the main reasons the PS2 was so successful was the amount of weird and wonderful games that were available on the PlayStation. They had games such as Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Oddworld, Gran Turismo, Driver, Metal Gear Solid, Resident Evil, Grand Theft Auto, Need for Speed, Ridge Racer, and Rayman. A lot of Xbox's first adopters were computer gamers. They felt the Xbox was a bridge between computer gaming and console gaming, and this is what Microsoft wanted to achieve. The Xbox was heavily reliant on third-party components, and this was very expensive. It meant Xbox was selling consoles at a loss. It cost Microsoft $425 to build the Xbox, and they were selling the console for $299. They hoped they would make their money through selling Xbox Live and accessories. It is not uncommon for companies to use this strategy and sell their consoles at a loss. But for Microsoft, they did not manage to regain these losses through the sale of add-ons. However, it was not all doom and gloom for Microsoft. The Xbox Classic placed them in a perfect position, ready for the next generation of gaming.
After the first war between Microsoft and Sony, both companies were able to reflect on the successful factors of their last generation consoles, whilst manufacturing their next generation of consoles.
Let's stop right there. Did you know that the hermit crab is the only crustacean that can climb trees? Also, did you know that high-definition video gaming is but one of many delights provided by your Xbox 360?
Microsoft released the Xbox 360 in 2005, beating the release date of the PlayStation 3, which was released in 2006, and also competing with the Nintendo Wii, which had also been released in 2006. This era of gaming was a huge step forward globally, as it was estimated that consoles represented 25% of the world's general purpose computational power in 2007. Along with the improved design of the Xbox, Microsoft were able to secure a number of developers so they could release more Xbox exclusives. With this and the lower price than the PlayStation, Xbox had the upper edge in the console war. But PlayStation were not only focused on their home console, but they were also focused on the release of the PlayStation Portable. The PSP was a huge success as the first installment of a handheld console from PlayStation, and was really the first competitor to Nintendo with their success in the handheld console market. The PSP sold around 90 to 82 million consoles worldwide and never saw any competition from Xbox in this market. The main feature which this generation of home consoles had in common, which really took gaming to the next level, was they were both equipped with high definition. Nintendo had entered the market at this time with the Wii, which had substantially lower graphics and processing power than these two main competitors. Its main selling point was that it was a console focused on innovative motion sensor controls. However, both Xbox and PlayStation were quick to compete with this with their release of similar products. The Xbox Kinect and the PlayStation Move, these were both add-on products to their respective consoles. And in addition to this, the two console titans released refreshed editions of their consoles. Microsoft released a low-costing 360S and a higher market 360 Elite, which came with the Kinect sensor, closely mirrored by Sony, who released two different slimmer models of the PlayStation 3. During this generation of consoles, with the new technology which they had adopted, game developers were able to create truly unique and innovative experiences for home console gaming. And with this surge of creativity, the two companies found themselves using exclusive games as a technique to win over more sales. Xbox 360 is estimated to have sold around 84 million units, and PlayStation 3 around 87 million units. Nintendo sold 101 million Nintendo Wiis. But although PS3 beat their main competitor Xbox in terms of sales, it was said during this era that the Xbox 360 exclusive games were far more superior than those of the PlayStation. From an article by Nick Steinberg, he states, "The 360 was simply easier to program for, as the PS3's complex system architecture was a nightmare for developers." Xbox had some game-changing titles such as the Gears of War franchise, Halo, and Forza, which also gave birth to the popular Forza Horizon series during this generation. And in return, PlayStation had Gran Turismo and super popular story-based games such as Uncharted, The Last of Us. However, during this generation, console gaming had the upper hand over PC gaming with the popular release of Red Dead Redemption, which was an exclusive to both consoles only. Rockstar Games had built a huge fan base over the generations of gaming with their really popular Grand Theft Auto series. And with the release of this Western action adventure, it really was a big deal and a big reason for a lot of gamers to get a console to play the super popular release.
This is considered to be the most underwhelming generation in gaming history. It felt like there was no real innovation and little creativity used when launching these machines. This generation kicked off in November 2013 with a sense of optimism and high hopes for what the next 7 years would bring. The Xbox One launched at $499 US, and the PlayStation 4 launched at a lower price of $399 US. Did Xbox shoot themselves in the foot? After the success of the 360, had they gotten too big for their boots by launching the Xbox One $100 more expensive than the PS4? The PS4 sold almost 115 million consoles, and the Xbox One just short of 50 million. Sony sold more than double what Microsoft could. Nintendo brought out their latest console, the Switch, in 2017 and have already exceeded Microsoft's Xbox One sales by selling 90 million consoles. I think it's fair to say Microsoft didn't build on what they've worked so hard to achieve in previous generations. Taking a holistic view of this generation, the game library wasn't as extensive as previous generations, and I think this is what gave PlayStation the advantage. They managed to release 299 exclusive games, whereas the Xbox One had less than half of this. In addition, it is widely agreed in the gaming community that games exclusive to the PS4, such as Spider-Man, God of War and Last of Us, are amazing games. A key thing happened in this generation that is criticised by most gamers: the introduction of microtransactions.
And the game award goes to, oh man, I have to pay a microtransaction to unlock. That's so stupid that this has to, hold on, I got this, guys, here we go. You know it's true, it's really stupid. The winner, Wolfenstein 2.
A company that has been heavily criticised for their pay-to-win business model is EA, with their Ultimate Team feature on FIFA. The community agree that they dislike the idea of forking out £60 for a new FIFA title every year and then make in-game purchases to be able to progress in the game. In 2018, after much criticism and legislative efforts, EA removed game-altering microtransactions from FIFA's Ultimate Team. A positive to this generation is how far the visuals have come. The most beautiful games you can play on these consoles are Red Dead Redemption 2, The Last of Us Part 2, Batman Arkham Knight and Forza Horizon 4. This leaves me feeling hopeful and excited for our current generation of gaming consoles.
In the year 2020, we welcomed the current generation of consoles to the market, and the console war between Xbox and PlayStation continued. With the launch of the Xbox Series X and Series S and the PlayStation 5, both consoles came with major technology improvements with higher resolution and higher frame rates. And within 13 months of launching, the Sony Playstation pushed ahead with having sold nearly 6 million more units, and are expected to keep this lead through this generation of the console war. But both consoles had their issues at launch. At the start of the pandemic, there was a shortage on microchips, and the demand far exceeded the supply, which has caused problems in every industry that relies heavily on computers, causing an effect on the supply of games consoles such as the Xbox and PS5, making them really difficult to find, especially at launch. With the workforce shift to home and the confinement of quarantine, it also led to a need for entertainment, which products like the PlayStation, the Xbox, and graphics cards for PCs exacerbated the demand even further. Along with this, in the current generation of gaming, we have seen an unexpected rise of the acquisition of game companies. Take-Two kicked things off by making an acquisition of Zynga for $12.7 billion, whilst Microsoft announced the acquisition of controversial publisher Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion, not long after finalising its $7.5 billion deal to acquire ZeniMax Media, who are the parent company of the Doom and Fallout studio, Bethesda Softworks. Then Sony announced the acquisition of Destiny and original Halo developer Bungie, which is now a PlayStation studio, and it cost $3.6 billion. Microsoft gaming chief Phil Spencer says, "This is a next step in building an industry-led first-party studios team, a commitment we have to our Xbox community. With the addition of Bethesda creative teams, gamers should know that Xbox consoles, PC, and Games Pass will be the best place to experience new Bethesda games, including some new titles in the future that will be exclusive to Xbox and PC players."
Over recent months, since the announcement of Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse, the popularity of VR has grown astronomically.
Gaming in the metaverse is going to span from immersive experiences in fantasy worlds to bringing simple games into our everyday lives through holograms. Maybe you'll play old games in new ways.
So, Barcelona, huh?
Well, it's not New York, but I like it.
New York misses you.
What's that?
I said, let me put my game face on so I can beat you.
Okay. Check.
I gotta try another game face next time.
Maybe you'll go head to head with players from around the world.
It's like a shop.
Some call it skill.
Keep talking.
Or maybe you'll do things that aren't even possible in gaming today.
A new old development has been on the rise in the gaming industry. VR arcades are starting to gain popularity among gamers. They are allowing players to fully experience VR gaming without having to purchase a headset of their own. This is a way for people to enjoy a VR experience without the need for a vast amount of space and to purchase the expensive equipment. There have been some criticisms of VR, and people argue that gamers don't want to be fully immersed in a game and they want to sit back on their sofa and play a game with their controller. As internet speeds gradually improve, cloud gaming will become more popular. The ability to stream games will not tie us to the hardware we are using, making it more accessible to people as they just pay for what they play, or pay a monthly subscription to access the games rather than having to purchase an expensive gaming setup. Microsoft are a step ahead in gaming as a service with the launch of Xbox Cloud Beta. This is something Microsoft can easily implement with their already strong footholding in cloud services. In 2019, Sony and Microsoft announced that they are exploring a strategic partnership in cloud gaming. Sony is a creative entertainment company with a solid foundation of technology. We collaborate closely with a multitude of content creators that capture the imagination of people around the world, and through our cutting-edge technology, we provide the tools to bring their dreams and vision to a reality, said Yoshida, PlayStation president. Could this mean we finally see the joint venture Microsoft wanted before they released the Xbox Classic? In my opinion, this is the future of gaming. It will allow people to access the best games without the need for expensive hardware. But this raises the question, will the PS5 and Xbox Series X be the last consoles we see from Sony and Microsoft? Thanks for watching, guys. Let us know in the comments below who you think is currently winning the console wars, and let us know where you think the future of gaming is going. Don't forget to like and subscribe.